Have you ever seen a child change someone's life with just a few simple words? What if a little girl's innocent wish could heal a broken heart that money, success, and fame could never fix? Today's story is about a single father, his loving daughter, and a billionaire woman who seemed to have everything, except happiness. Sometimes the greatest miracles don't come from wealth or power. Sometimes they come from kindness, compassion, and the pure heart of a child. Stay with me until the end, because this touching story might just change the way you look at the people around you. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Welcome to Kindness Paradise, where every story reminds us that kindness can transform lives in the most unexpected ways. Michael Carter was a hard-working single father living in a small town in Ohio. Ever since his wife passed away from an illness 5 years earlier, he had dedicated every part of his life to raising his 8-year-old daughter, Emma. Life was not easy. Michael worked long hours as a mechanic. Some months he barely had enough money to cover rent, groceries, and school expenses. But no matter how difficult things became, he always made sure Emma felt loved. Emma was a bright little girl with a smile that could light up any room. She had inherited her mother's kindness and her father's determination. One rainy Saturday afternoon, Michael took Emma to a city charity event. A local foundation was organizing activities for children and families. Free meals, games, and entertainment filled the large community center. Emma loved every minute of it. While Michael chatted with other parents, Emma wandered toward a quiet corner of the room where she noticed a woman sitting alone. The woman looked elegant and successful. She wore expensive clothes and jewelry, yet her eyes seemed full of sadness. Most people were too busy to notice her, but Emma noticed. Children often see things adults miss. Emma walked over and sat beside the woman. "Hi," she said with a cheerful smile. The woman looked surprised. "Hello," she replied softly. "My name is Emma. What's yours?" The woman hesitated before answering. "Victoria." Emma smiled. "You look sad, Victoria." The woman let out a small laugh. "That obvious?" "A little," Emma admitted. Victoria smiled for the first time that day. What Emma didn't know was that Victoria Reynolds was one of the wealthiest women in the state. She owned a successful technology company worth billions of dollars. People admired her success. They envied her lifestyle. But few knew the pain she carried. 3 years earlier, Victoria had lost the man she loved in a tragic accident. Since then, she had buried herself in work. She had money. She had influence. She had everything society said should make a person happy. Yet every night she returned to an empty mansion. Every holiday felt lonely. Every success felt incomplete. Emma looked at her carefully. "My dad says when people are sad, they need someone to talk to." Victoria felt her eyes begin to water. "Your dad sounds very wise." "He is," Emma said proudly. For nearly 30 minutes, the two talked. Emma shared stories about school, her favorite books, and her dream of becoming a veterinarian. Victoria listened and laughed more than she had in months. For the first time in a long time, she felt something warm inside her heart. Then Emma asked a question. "Do you have kids?" Victoria shook her head. "No." "Do you have a husband?" Again, Victoria shook her head. "No." Emma became quiet. Then she looked down at her shoes. "What are you thinking?" Victoria asked. Emma took a deep breath. "I'm thinking about my wish." "A wish?" Emma nodded. "Yes." Victoria smiled. "What's your wish?" The little girl looked directly into her eyes. "I wish you could be part of our family." Victoria froze. For a moment, she couldn't speak. The innocent words struck her heart like lightning. Emma continued. "My dad gets lonely sometimes too. He tries not to show it, but I know he misses Mom. And I think you look lonely too." Victoria felt tears forming. No business award. No financial success. No public recognition. Nothing had ever touched her heart the way those simple words did. At that moment, Michael walked over. "Emma, I hope you're not bothering this lady." Victoria quickly wiped her eyes. "Not at all," she said. "She's wonderful." Over the next few weeks, something unexpected happened. Victoria and Michael stayed in touch. At first, it was simple friendship. They met for coffee. They talked about life. They shared stories about loss, challenges, and hope. Michael treated Victoria differently than everyone else. He didn't care about her money. He didn't try to impress her. He simply treated her with kindness and respect. And Victoria appreciated that more than she could express. Meanwhile, Emma became their biggest supporter. Every time they met, she would grin and whisper, "My wish is working." The adults always laughed. Months passed. Their friendship grew stronger. Victoria found herself smiling again. Michael found himself looking forward to every conversation. For the first time in years, both of them felt understood. One winter evening, Victoria invited Michael and Emma to her home for dinner. After the meal, they sat beside a fireplace. Emma fell asleep on the couch. Michael covered her with a blanket. Victoria watched quietly. "You're a great father," she said. Michael smiled. I try. There was a long pause. Then Victoria spoke again. You know, before I met Emma, I thought my life was over. Michael looked surprised. What do you mean? I had stopped believing happiness could return. I thought I would spend the rest of my life alone. Michael nodded slowly. I understand that feeling. Victoria smiled. But then a little girl sat beside me and changed everything. At that moment, both realized how much they meant to each other. A year later, Michael and Victoria stood together at a small wedding ceremony surrounded by friends and family. Emma wore the biggest smile anyone had ever seen. When the ceremony ended, she ran toward them. My wish came true, she shouted. Everyone laughed through happy tears. But the story didn't end there. Inspired by Emma's kindness, Victoria created a foundation dedicated to helping single-parent families. The organization provided housing assistance, childcare support, and educational opportunities for thousands of struggling parents across the country. Lives were changed. Families found hope. And it all began because one little girl noticed someone sitting alone. Years later, Victoria often shared the lesson she learned that day. She would say, "The most valuable gift I ever received didn't come from business success or wealth. It came from the kindness of a child who saw a broken heart and decided to care." And maybe that is the lesson for all of us. We never truly know what someone is carrying inside. The person beside us may be fighting loneliness, grief, or pain that nobody else can see. A smile, a conversation, a simple act of kindness. These small things can change a life forever. If Emma taught us anything, it's that kindness doesn't require money, power, or status. It only requires a caring heart. So today, wherever you are, choose kindness. Reach out to someone who seems alone. Offer encouragement to someone who is struggling. You never know how much your compassion might mean. Because sometimes, one small act of kindness can create a miracle bigger than anyone could ever imagine. Here's a completely different version of the story script. Have you ever wondered how one small act of kindness can completely change someone's future? What if a little girl's innocent wish could heal a heart that had been broken for years? Today's story is about a lonely billionaire, a struggling single father, and a child whose kindness created a miracle nobody expected. Stay with me until the very end because this emotional story proves that sometimes the richest people are not the happiest, and sometimes the smallest voices carry the biggest messages. Before we begin, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below telling us where you're watching from. Welcome to Kindness Paradise, where every story reminds us that kindness has the power to change lives. David Miller was a single father living in a small town outside Chicago. Life had been difficult ever since his wife passed away 4 years earlier. Every day, he worked long hours delivering packages to support his 10-year-old daughter, Lily. David never complained. He woke up before sunrise, worked until evening, and still found time to help Lily with homework, cook dinner, and read her favorite bedtime stories. Money was always tight, but love was never missing from their home. Lily was known by everyone in town for her kind heart. She loved helping neighbors, feeding stray animals, and making handmade cards for people who seemed sad. One Saturday afternoon, David took Lily to a charity fundraiser being held at a large hotel downtown. The event was designed to raise money for children's hospitals. The ballroom was crowded with business leaders, local families, and community volunteers. While David spoke with other guests, Lily wandered toward a quiet table near a window. There sat a woman dressed in an elegant navy blue suit. She looked successful and confident on the outside, but her eyes told a different story. The woman was staring out the window as if she were carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. Lily slowly approached her. "Hello," she said with a bright smile. The woman looked surprised. "Hello there. I'm Lily. What's your name?" The woman smiled politely. "My name is Rebecca. Are you here by yourself?" Lily asked. Rebecca nodded. "Yes, I am." Lily sat down beside her without hesitation. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lily said something unexpected. "You look like you're trying not to cry." Rebecca's eyes widened. Most adults ignored her sadness. Most people only saw the billionaire businesswoman who appeared in magazines and television interviews. But this little girl had noticed something everyone else missed. Rebecca laughed softly. "Am I that obvious?" "A little," Lily admitted. The two began talking. Lily told stories about school, her best friends, and her dream of becoming a teacher one day. Rebecca listened carefully. For the first time in months, she found herself smiling. What Lily didn't know was that Rebecca Harrison was one of the most successful women in America. She had built a billion-dollar company from scratch. People admired her achievements. They admired her wealth. But they didn't know about the heartbreak she carried. 3 years earlier, Rebecca's fiancé had died in a car accident just weeks before their wedding. The loss shattered her world. Since then, she had buried herself in work. Her company grew larger. Her bank account grew larger. But her happiness disappeared. As the conversation continued, Lily noticed a framed photo sticking out of Rebecca's purse. "Is that your husband?" Lily asked. Rebecca looked at the picture and shook her head. "He was supposed to be." Lily's face became serious. "I'm sorry." Rebecca felt tears forming. "Thank you." A few moments later, Lily pointed toward David across the room. "That's my dad." Rebecca glanced over. David was helping volunteers move supplies and clean tables. "He seems nice," Rebecca said. "He is," Lily replied proudly. "Is it just you and your dad?" Lily nodded. "My mom is in heaven." Rebecca felt her heart ache. In that moment, she realized they both understood loss. One had lost the love of her life. The other had lost her mother. The connection was immediate. As the event ended, David came over to pick up Lily. Rebecca stood and introduced herself. The three shared a brief conversation before saying goodbye. But just before leaving, Lily turned around. "I have a wish." Rebecca smiled. "What's your wish?" Lily looked directly at her. "I wish my dad and you could stop being lonely." Rebecca froze. David nearly dropped the bag he was carrying. Lily continued innocently. "You both look sad when you think nobody is watching." Rebecca felt tears filling her eyes. No boardroom meeting had ever affected her the way those words did. No award had ever touched her heart so deeply. The ride home that evening felt different for everyone. A week later, Rebecca contacted David. She wanted to thank Lily for their conversation. David agreed to meet for coffee. That coffee turned into lunch. Lunch turned into friendship. Over the following months, they spent more time together. Rebecca joined them for community events. David helped her with volunteer projects. Lily was thrilled every time she saw them together. Little by little, Rebecca began opening her heart again. She laughed more. She smiled more. She started enjoying life instead of simply surviving it. David experienced changes too. For years, he had focused only on responsibilities. Now he had someone who listened to him, encouraged him, and understood his struggles. One evening, while walking through a park during autumn, Rebecca shared something she had never told anyone. "You know," she said softly, "before meeting Lily, I thought my future was already written." David looked at her. "What do you mean?" "I thought I would spend the rest of my life alone." David smiled gently. "I used to think the same thing." They sat quietly on a park bench as golden leaves drifted through the air. Neither of them needed to say much more. A year later, family and friends gathered for a beautiful wedding ceremony. Rebecca and David stood together, smiling brighter than either had smiled in years. Lily stood proudly between them. When the ceremony ended, she hugged them both. "My wish came true," she shouted. Everyone laughed. Many wiped away tears. But the greatest part of the story came afterward. Inspired by Lily's compassion, Rebecca created a national charity focused on helping widows, widowers, and single-parent families rebuild their lives. Thousands of people received support. Thousands found hope. And it all started because one little girl noticed someone hurting and decided to care. Years later, Rebecca often shared the lesson she learned from Lily. She would say, "The greatest gift I ever received wasn't money, success, or recognition. It was kindness from a child who reminded me that no one should face life alone." And maybe that's the lesson for all of us. We never know what battles people are fighting behind their smiles. The stranger beside us may be carrying pain we cannot see. A kind word can bring comfort. A simple conversation can bring hope. A caring heart can change a life. So today, choose kindness whenever you can. Reach out to someone who seems lonely. Encourage someone who feels forgotten. Offer a smile to someone who needs it. Because sometimes, one small act of kindness can create a future more beautiful than anyone ever imagined.